Getting together with the family over the holidays usually includes a big meal, but not everything on your plate is a touchdown. These are the 10 worst Christmas dinner dishes. No, we're not talking about turkey, mashed potatoes, and gravy.
You better not! You better not!
We're talking about things like fruitcake.
What are you smiling at, you fruitcake?
It's not at all a shocker that fruitcake has found its way onto this list. Fruitcake is a notorious dessert that's usually more the butt of jokes than the pride of the Christmas dinner table. Tonight Show host Johnny Carson is famous for his take on the cake, saying, "There's only one fruitcake in the entire world, and people keep sending it to each other." And when you consider that fruitcake remains edible for years, this joke becomes even more funny and entertaining. This dish is typically made with a cake batter mixed with dried or candied fruits like raisins, apricots, dates, and oranges, nuts, and spices, all baked together into a dense and known to be very dry loaf.
You're nuttier than a fruitcake.
The dryness is part of why this dish has such a long shelf life, and it's also why you see so many recipes that involve soaking the cake in a sweet and flavorful mixture. It's all an attempt to bring moisture and yumminess to this dish. Even though this loaf cake is often hated, it's been around for an incredibly long time, like dating back to ancient Roman times. And its influence can be seen all around the world. You can find fruitcake-like desserts from different countries all over the world, each with its own twists and additions based on what's available in their region.
Did you ever get a fruitcake for Christmas?
Always. I got one this Christmas.
Do you eat it?
No.
Mincemeat pies.
It pushes all the mincemeat to the top of the pie.
There's another fruit-filled dish whose lack of popularity isn't far behind that of fruitcake, and that's mincemeat pies. Mincemeat pies, also known as mince pies, are a traditional British Christmas dish that originally mixed together fruit and meat. And if you raised your eyebrow at that combination, you're not alone. The mix of ingredients is just one of the things about mincemeat pies that causes people to pause before giving it a try. At one time, recipes for this dish included ingredients like dried fruits and lamb. Originally, they were savory, but most recipes you find today are sweet and meat-free.
Today, mincemeat is mostly made up of fruit.
And while finding actual meat in these pies isn't very common today, it's also not completely unheard of. And it might be this meat roulette that adds to what turns so many people away from this dish. You can never be sure if you're dipping into something sweet or savory, and it's a gamble not many want to make. These pies are found in individual servings, but originally they were made to share. They've gotten smaller and sweeter over time, but still have left many uninterested or disliking the dish entirely.
Aw, don't cry, meat pie!
Figgy pudding, aka plum pudding or Christmas pudding.
Time for figgy pudding!
Now bring us some figgy pudding. Why is it that this staple Christmas item is only ever requested when singing the age-old Christmas carol, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas"? While it's hard to say for certain, it's known that many people have a strong dislike of this pudding, although it's not like the traditional pudding that we're all used to. It's made with spices, dried fruits, flour, and suet, and is often cooked in a water bath in the oven. It often comes out of the oven looking like a questionable brown dome. And while all of those ingredients listed are sweet, you might be surprised to learn that originally this dish contained meat and vegetables.
Gonna need some pudding here! Pudding!
Fruit, plums, and their dried version prunes weren't introduced to this Christmas dish until much later in this dish's history. Smithsonian Magazine reveals that figgy pudding's ties to Christmas go back to when it took a month to prepare the dish. This was so the spices could have their full effect. It was traditional to make this dish on Advent and then let it rest until Christmas. It's also believed that the ingredients are representative of Jesus and his apostles, since the puddings were traditionally made with 13 ingredients. Even with so much tradition and history attached to this dish, it doesn't get much love from people sitting down for Christmas dinner. This faux pudding is easily one of the worst Christmas dinner dishes.
That's real pudding in there. It's not real pudding.
New to our channel? Then make our day and hit that subscribe button. Thanks. Eggnog.
Yeah, you like that nog. Don't spit the nog out.
Okay, this might not be a dish per se, but you can't talk about Christmas food without bringing up eggnog. It's a necessity during the Christmas season, even though for some it's earned a rightful reputation as one of the worst Christmas dishes. Eggnog is a divisive Christmas essential that people seem to love or hate, with absolutely no one in between. Think about it. Have you ever heard someone say they think eggnog is okay? Not likely. This drink often brings out feelings in the extreme, and it's not hard to imagine why so many people are exposed to or even disgusted by the drink. Its key ingredient is raw eggs.
I want you to drink this glass of raw eggs.
Not many people sit down to enjoy a raw egg, but somehow it makes its way into glasses every Christmas season, and this has been happening for an incredibly long time. Food historians debate where its true origins lay because it's been around for so long. According to Time, there's an agreement on when eggnog became commonplace for holidays, though, and that was in the 1700s when Britain began colonizing America. The ingredients were easily and affordably available in agricultural communities and could be easily put together for Christmas festivities.
Only people I have at home are my two friends, Egg and Nog.
Trifle.
Okay, everybody, it's trifle time.
Trifle is made in 3 layers stacked together in a deep glass or clear bowl. The layers consist of sponge cake or ladyfinger cookies, custard, and a berry or jello layer, though what goes into each layer can vary quite a bit from recipe to recipe. Sometimes these will be 3 layers on their own or will be repeating layers creating a pattern in the trifle dish. And while this dish doesn't sound terrible or unappealing, for whatever reason, this dish is not enjoyed by many people. Maybe it's because the cookies end up too soggy to be enjoyable, or maybe it's because this Christmas dish was originally created as a way to use up leftovers around the kitchen, like old stale bread in 18th century Britain. Even the origin of the word trifle speaks to the general dislike of this dish. It originates from the old French word truffe, which means something of little importance.
Just so used to saying it in French.
Even though this was designed to be a dish made from leftovers, for many households, it's become an essential part of the Christmas dinner spread and a general holiday dinner essential. It's also the star of a Friends Thanksgiving episode where Rachel's infamous attempt at making trifle resulted in the addition of beef, peas, and other savory ingredients that have no place in a dessert. And it didn't go over well, except of course with Joey. Even without the Friends trifle disaster coming to mind every time you see this dessert, this dish would still go down as one of the worst Christmas dinner options.
Does it not taste good? Let me try it.
Yule Log Cake.
You burned it. Like a cake.
Yule Log cakes are similar to Swiss rolls in their construction, and they are made with sponge cake covered in icing. The cake and icing are rolled together to look like a log, with the tree bark and all. And often the icing will be chocolate to help create a realistic log color. This dessert looks beautiful and festive, but is not always a crowd pleaser. Some believe Yule cakes often drop the ball on the taste front. Maybe it's the sponge cake, which when done incorrectly can be quite dry and bland, but who can say for sure? And because of this mentality, they've become an unpopular Christmas dish that had to be included on this list. The log cake was believed to have originated in France, where it's called a bûche de Noël. It's also thought to have been inspired by Norse cultures who used Yule logs in celebration of the winter solstice and the return of the sun. Yule logs were special logs that would be burned in fireplaces as a part of the celebration. According to some historians, the Yule log is the reason why we associate fireplaces with the Christmas season. The Yule log cake pays homage to this celebration and adds beauty and tradition to the holiday table, but it's something that many would be happy to pass on.
Next, you won't want a Christmas ham.
Christmas ham.
No, of course.
Here's another controversial dish to make to the table. To some, this is an amazing addition to Christmas dinner, but to others, they'd be happier if it didn't make its way to the table at all. And truth be told, this dish wasn't always a part of Christmas dinners. We're talking about the Christmas ham, which was adopted from other solstice traditions. Both Germanic and Norse traditions for the time of year feasted on wild boar. Wild boar eventually made its way to become the ham we know know and recognize today.
Hi, y'all. I brought boar.
During the 20th century, ham became an even more popular meal to serve at festivities. One theory of the ham's rise is because of advertising campaigns and pork's low cost. It was typically 12 to 30 cents cheaper than other popular meats during that time, which is considerable savings. This dish can be served in many different ways. For Christmas, it's often baked or a roasted ham leg instead of the highly manufactured versions that exist. But for those who don't like this dish, hopefully there's a turkey on the table as well.
No Thanksgiving dinner for you today, baby.
Panettone bread.
Brought you a panettone.
This dry, fruit-filled hybrid cake bread often arrives in households during festive celebrations. And like its fruitcake relative, it's another dessert people love to hate. The Italian cake is recognizable by its tall, domed shape and is widely celebrated in Italy, where its place on the Christmas dinner and dessert table was first considered. Panettone bread's origin can be traced back to Milan, and the city is filled with pride about this fact and holds annual celebrations.
People want to make it an Italian pride parade.
Similar to a fruitcake, it contains dried fruits, but unlike a fruitcake, it's much lighter. The cake is quite dry and is often left sitting untouched and placed off to the side during all the Christmas festivities. If you search the name of this dish, you'll often find recipes you can make with the cake. Things like bread pudding often top the list with what seems like endless variations. But depending on who you ask, bread pudding wouldn't be much of an improvement. Though rumor has it that if you turn it into French toast the next morning, you might decide the Christmas dish is redeemable after all.
Sounds better in French.
Boiled carrots.
Carrots?
I hate carrots.
With so many delicious ways to cook up vegetables, why on earth do plain old boiled veggies? We're looking at you, carrots, end up on the Christmas dinner plate. These have earned their spot as one of the worst for obvious reasons. Plain boiled vegetables aren't enjoyable, but they always show up at the dinner table just the same. Even though dressing carrots up with honey and seasoning or slow roasting them to perfection can make for a delicious side dish, somehow boiling them just doesn't do this vegetable justice. Of course, the practice of boiling carrots is an old and even very practical one.
And we still do it today. Why? Cause.
Boiling them softens them and makes them easier to eat. It's also believed that boiling them makes it better for your digestive system to absorb the nutrients available in them. But let's be honest, not everything good for you actually tastes good. Because carrots have so many cooking possibilities, maybe if they're slow roasted for next year's Christmas dinner, they'll be bumped off the list. Until then, we're moving on to the last item of Christmas dinner no-nos.
We're not supposed to celebrate Christmas.
Green bean casserole.
Perhaps a jelly bean, green bean casserole?
Like boiled carrots, green bean casserole is always a letdown during the Christmas feast. This American dish in its simplest form is green beans and fried onions in a creamy sauce. Women's Day magazine describes the casserole as looking like a mushy mix of leftovers right from the moment it's set out on the Christmas table. And with a description like that, how could we not include it on this list? Green bean casserole first appeared in 1955 from the Campbell's Soup Company, and it went by the name Green Bean Bake.
Sponsored by Campbell's Soup.
According to Campbell's history, this dish was supposed to be a regular everyday side dish instead of merely a holiday one, but over time it made its way to both Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner tables. Sure, it offers green veggies for your plate, but they just don't deliver the delicious flavors and enjoyment that the rest of Christmas dinner delivers to your taste buds. Maybe people would like them more if they tried the dish with other vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower, which Campbell's Soup recommends trying out. A giant heaping of mashed potatoes sounds like a much better option. Thank you.
Who's gonna cook Christmas dinner?
Show us some love and tap or click on another great video. And hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell if it's your first time here.